Hi and welcome back to my channel. My name's Georgie. Today I'm going to be showing you how I'm going to migrate into my second bullet journal, which is this Scribbles That Matter Pro in Periwinkle Blue. I've never used a Scribbles That Matter before. I had a Leuchtturm 1917 last time, which I loved, but I thought I'd try something different. So this is the Scribbles That Matter. It's a lovely blue colour, soft cover as well. Really feels lovely in the hand. It has a pen loop and also an elastic band. We have a key page, index pages, pen test, and there's 201 dot grid pages. So the first thing that I'm going to do is write my name in the front. I wanted to use some fancy writing but still make it legible. So I'm just trying some typical lettering here. And then the second thing that I wanted to do is fill in my key. Now in the back of my old bullet journal I had this little bookmark that I used Mildliners to determine what my colour coding would be for my time tracking. So I wanted to fill this out in the key section, so I've got it right at the front. I use 15 different colours and there are 15 different bullets here for you to fill in, so I thought that would be perfect. So with my time tracking I track things like sleep, rest, TV, planning or doing absolutely nada. Driving, because I drive a lot for work, the different types of work that I do. I also track my hygiene, my chores, eating, time spent with my husband and my daughter or my friends, and then also time for church, studying or reading. You can see there that I've got napping. I do try to make sure that I schedule in some napping, as I have ME, which is a chronic illness which makes you experience quite severe pain and fatigue, and I find that if I'm not on top of things I can get very run down. I'm feeling a lot of pain, so I have to make sure that I nap regularly. So these Mildliners are probably one of my favourite things that I've added into my bullet journaling stationery, because the colours are so muted but still quite bright, if that makes any sense whatsoever. It means that you can use them to highlight a number of things without detracting from the information that you're highlighting. So you can see here that they look quite different on the Scribbles That Matter paper, which I thought was interesting. You've also got here a section where I'm going to put in the bullets that I use for tasks and events. So you can see that I'm using a square bullet for a task, which is crossed through once I start and then crossed through with an X once it's completed. I strike it through if it's cancelled, and then I use an arrow if it has to be migrated elsewhere. I have a circle for events, and then I use the same style of notation once it's in progress, completed, etc. So now I'm going to try the pen test page with the pens that I use the most, which are these Uniball drawing pens. I have the whole range from 0.1 to 0.8. I know that there's a 0.005 which would be far too fine for my heavy hand. So I'm just trying out the pens here so that you can see how they look on the paper, and also I'm going to check for ghosting or bleeding. I'm also going to try a few other pens here. I have the Papermate Flare, I have a Sarasa fine liner, and I have the Fudenosuke in soft and hard tip, and this is a brush pen which is a duo tip pen from WH Smith, which are kind of like the Tombows, so hardly any ghosting there at all. And then the first layout that I'm going to set up is my Calendex. And this is slightly different from the one that I did in my first bullet journal, which you can see in my flip through video, which I'll link below and in the cards. This Calendex is going to only be for 6 months, and I'm going to use the traditional bullet journal form, which I will also link below as well. I'll link to the bullet journal website where all of that is explained. So using these banner style headers, which are quite simple but effective, and I'm separating the page into 4 sections for the next 4 months so that I can track what the main important events and tasks will be. I'm using these dotted lines to show where the weeks end and begin. I actually do get paid weekly on a Friday, so it's handy to see where each of the weeks fall. This also helps as I'm going to be looking this year at time blocking in my planning, so this will also help with that. So here I will have September, October, November and December, all the important key dates and things that I have going on. I'm going to do colour coding with this. I've picked a pink washi that's in the style of Simply Gilded with the gold bows. So I've picked some pink and purple colours that match with that, and I'm going to use those. On this page I'm going to do another style of future log, which is a horizon, which is in the style of Eddy Hope, again, which I will link below. And this is just so that although I only have 4 months in the Calendex, I can also note down any important information that might be coming up after that. So I'm going to go from January to August on this page, just so that I can really keep track of anything that's coming up, like holidays or important things that are coming up, like meetings or scheduling. I'm going to be studying this year, so there might be important things with that are coming up that I need to make sure I'm keeping track of. So in both of these sections I'm going to be using the same colour coding, so I'm popping that down here. So I've separated into categories which I will use different colours for, and then what I will do in the Calendex, I will just simply put a bullet which will note that there is an event or an important thing to remember within that category, and then what I will do is I will reference it with a page number so that you can flip to the page easily to find out what that event is and what's going on. So that will either be in the monthly logs or that will be in my weekly spreads. So you can see with this future log that it's just simply a case of noting down a bullet in the month and then in the description section putting what that is. And then with the Calendex, what I'm doing is on each day, if I've got something in the morning and in the evening, I'm spreading that out across the width of the blocks that I've got so that I can see the spread of what's going on. This will also help with my time blocking, because I'm very aware that I will often book a lot of things in the late afternoon and the evening rather than spreading them out across the day. These pages as well will be used as a way of noting future events. On this page we'll do the full year from January to December, because it just helps to give a flow to see where everybody's birthdays lie. I'm going to link below the inspiration for this page, as well as the candles were actually something that I'd seen in a Pinterest post, which I thought were really cute. I'm going to use the same colours that I've used for my colour coding on these pages as well, just to tie everything together. And then on this page I'm going to be noting down all of the future bookings that I have for one of the jobs that I do, which is working with an events company who provide chocolate fountains and sweets and all sorts of nice sweet treats and food for weddings and birthdays and special events. So I wanted to make sure, as those bookings often come quite far in advance, that I've got everything noted down for the next few months. Quite inspired by the recent trend of having donut walls at weddings and events, I thought I'd have a different type of donut for each month. So I've got September, October, November, December, January and February here. So that takes me up into spring. And anything else that might be popped in that I might need to note down, I'll then put in the horizon page. This was actually quite a fun and therapeutic page to do, as it just gave me a chance to do a little bit of colouring and a little bit of design, making all of the candles different for each month and just something a bit fun and interesting to do rather than practical. I find with bullet journaling that you can absolutely go 100% functional, or you can also mix things up with decoration and design if you want to be more artistic and creative. I like to mix those two. Sometimes I do need my spreads to be more functional, and I feel with the Calendex and the Horizon page that's exactly what they are. They're quite functional. They are colourful because I've needed to colour code things, but ultimately they are just functional pages, whereas these have functionality, however they are just basically something to be creative with and expressive with. So what I will do with each of these sections is I will note down the date and the venue of the booking that I have, and then I'll use these checkboxes to note down once I've been paid for the job. And then on this next page, I wanted to have somewhere where I could migrate some of the goals and intentions that I had in my last bullet journal. However, I didn't want to take up lots and lots of pages, as this bullet journal actually has less pages in it than the Leuchtturm. So what I wanted to do was have one page where I could just note down certain things that I wanted to do. In my last bullet journal, I had a massive spread of movies that I wanted to see, a huge spread of how many books that I wanted to read, my bucket list, my goals and intentions, things like that. And a lot of those things are unachievable if I've only got 4 months in this bullet journal. I'm not going to read a whole year's worth of books. As you can see from my flip through video, in fact, I've read one entire book because I'm one of these people that starts and doesn't always quickly finish. So on this page, I wanted to have all of those things put together. So it'll be quite small, but hopefully that means that those goals and intentions will be attainable rather than something that I'm never going to achieve. So I have a section here of movies that I want to go and see. There's a bookcase here that I'm drawing, which will be some of the books that I want to read. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave each book blank. And if I read one, I will then write in the name. Rather than what I had before was I wrote all the names of all the books I wanted to read. And it actually just becomes a list of failures because you haven't actually achieved that. So you can see here that there's still quite a few books on this bookshelf because I wanted to make it look like a proper bookshelf, but I haven't written any of the names, as I said, so I'm not setting myself up for failure. The other thing that I wanted to do was to track Instagram followers and to track YouTube subscribers. Now, this isn't something necessarily that I am going to be kicking myself for if it doesn't happen. This is just a way of me to track where I'm at in a fun way so that I can see if I do have growth. and celebrate that if I do. And then obviously I'm drawing a bucket here for my bucket list. I'm drawing a TV remote to note down some of the TV series that I want to watch or start watching. Again, I'm not going to track the series and the episode number and everything that I did in my last one, because that becomes too big and unmanageable. And then I have a photo frame here, which is for more of my social goals, you know, people I want to see, places I want to go. And then this notepad here will be a wish list for things that I would like to save for, things that I would like to treat my daughter to, you know, things that we might need around the home that I can note down here. And of course, bullet journal supplies will be heavy on that list. I've kept this page quite simple, just black and white for now, and I'll add colour as I go along, and I build in other things and note down other things into the spread. And then on this page, something that I thought would be quite fun to do, which is kind of bucket list style, is a 19 before 19. Now I only have 4 months to do this, and I'm very aware that most people will have done this back in January. So it's not something that I'm necessarily going to be kicking myself for, and I'm not even entirely sure that I will write down 19 things that I want to do straight away. I think what I will do is perhaps note down my achievements or things that I'm working towards that I know will be attainable and achievable. So I used these stencils here for different styles of numbers. We've got more of the Roman style, we have more of a serif style font, and then obviously these digital styles, one of which is quite big and straight and the other has got a slight slant to it as well, just to make it a little bit more interesting. So this next page is going to be a way of me tracking my bills throughout the year. So I have been building in a bills tracker into my monthly pages in my last bullet journal. However, sometimes that can be a bit difficult to keep up with, or the design or theme of that month doesn't quite work. So what I wanted to do was have a master bills list so that I can see the spread of my bills across the month, when things normally come out, and then for each month I will track how much exactly it was, if it's variable, or which date it came out on, if it's a 28-day bill schedule. And then this page is going to be a tracker for my ME symptoms. You may have seen before the Life in Pixels. If you haven't, I'll link a few below, which are really good. A really good way of tracking mood or pain if you have a chronic illness, just so that you can really see across the spread of a few months how you are doing. So I've done this for the next 6 months. I'm tracking my pain, my energy levels, and also my mood. And what I wanted to do was to keep to one style of pen. So I'm using the Mildliners in still complementary colours with my other themes to track down if my pain, energy or mood is extreme, severe, moderate, mild or slight. So in the case of mood, that the words don't quite apply, but the the scale is the same really. We're working on a 1:5 scale. So I have September to February mapped out here, and it will give me an idea of how to do it. Now the style of the layout that I've used is very similar to a few that I've seen, so as I said, I will link those below. I found it really interesting how the different paper in the Scribbles That Matter bullet journal has affected the pens that I use. These colours are a lot more vibrant on the Scribbles That Matter than they were in the Leuchtturm, which is really quite nice. I just have to be careful of going over things too many times so that I don't get bleed through. But I feel like the paper in the Scribbles That Matter is quite good for that. I feel like it would withstand quite a lot of ink without bleeding or ghosting too much. So you can see here I filled in a few bills just to give you an example, and filling in the first day of the month so that you can see how I'll be using that. And now I'm just going to be adding some shadow with my grey Mildliner, just to give things a little bit more dimension. You can see it really makes a difference and helps things to lift off the page just by adding a simple shadow. And then this last page is another planning style page. This is going to be sort of an ideas page, a brain dump, spelling out my thoughts into different categories and sections for things that I want to do or things that I would be interested in looking at. Wanted to make this colourful but still simple. And for most of what you see here, I did use my stencils that I got, which again I will link below. I bought those from Amazon. I have 20 of them, I believe. Some of them are very, very small, so having a 0.1 drawing pen or even a 0.05 drawing pen would be good. But they are really, really useful for bullet journaling, and there's all sorts of different styles of banner heads and decoration that you can use, or icons for different social media or lifestyle things that you want to include. So that's really handy. It also helped with these flag style banners as well, as that's one of the stencils that are in the kit. So the sections that I'm going to be planning for here are YouTube, Instagram, blogging, my pretty plates, which is one of my sideline businesses, and Bujo ideas or themes. So I'll often be looking on Pinterest and see ideas for themes and think I really want to do that at some point, but I've already planned the next month or the next few months, so it's nice to have those noted down. So just going to flip through here so you can see my finished setup for this migration. Really looking forward to using a different style of Calendex and future log, filling out all of these birthdays and the bookings that I've got coming in. It'll be nice to have a look again at my goals and intentions and be a little bit more focused on those. And here I am going to put down my first achievement for this part of the year, and that is to start YouTube, which has been a big thing for me. I don't know quite how it will go. It's making bullet journaling very interesting again for me, which is part of the appeal. It will keep me on track and on schedule and accountable for actually using it and keeping up to date with everything. So thank you guys for watching this bullet journal setup and migration. Really appreciate your views. Please like and subscribe if you would like to, and I will bring a September setup for you very soon. Thanks again.